Good evening and welcome to the Landis Town Board meeting. This is the first of 2021, so we welcome you tonight. At this time, we will ask everyone to please stand. We will have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time, go ahead.
I have one citizen comment, and I didn't bring it with me.
You want to run and get it?
You go ahead.
Okay. At this time, we will look to adopt the agenda. There is no modifications that need to be made at this time. All right, so the...
Mayor and Board, I move we adopt this agenda for the evening.
I second that.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We will pause 1 minute for Mr. Barefoot to run and get the citizen's comment that had to be emailed in or dropped in by today. I will take just a second while we have a lull. This year, the town, well, last year we received a few, but not as many as this year. But this year we received a Public Powers Committees of North Carolina. It's from Electric Cities. It's a 2021 calendar. They are located this year at the Lake Coyer Wilderness Park. You can go by and grab one if you are out that way fishing, hiking, doing whatever you may do. You may want to wait till April when it's a little warmer if you want to not be frigid. But the town of Landis is the month of April, and Lake Coyer is featured the front and back. And it's a pretty cool little thing. It comes up with a pop-up that you can make it a desk calendar or you can put it somewhere in your home. Just letting you know that those are available out at Lake Coyer. If you would like to grab one of those, I have set one out for each board member. Mr. Locklear, some other staff members have already received those on their desk. So if you would like to grab one of those, I think it's pretty neat that Landis is featured this year. Last year we were not, and so I think it's great. It's fun and exciting things for the town. So just a pitch for while we wait. Mr. Barefoot's back with our public comment.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I had it in a different notebook I was going to use, and then I changed and went back to my old one. I have a citizen's comment from Nadine Cherry at 410 West Garden Street. As a citizen with disability living in this town, I would like to remind the mayor and board of aldermen that there are things that you're required to do under the ADA, American Disabilities Act. There should be a copy of what is called the Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan that was required to be done years ago, as far back as the early 90s. I'm requesting to see a copy of the plan. Sometimes earlier this year, I asked about who is now the ADA coordinator since the previous ADA coordinator, Brandon Lynn, left the town of Landis. I was told that the ADA coordinator is now interim town manager Leonard Barefoot, but on the website, Brandon Lynn is still listed as ADA coordinator. If so, what is he, interim manager Barefoot, doing toward getting the town totally ADA compliant? During the fall festival this past fall, one thing I did notice that was incorrect was where the handicap parking was located. That was not the correct place for it. The handicap parking spaces were located in front of the gazebo. The correct place should have been on the other side of the road where the sidewalk is located. What I would like to know also is what about the ADA training manager Barefoot has had? In an email from Julia Thane of Disability Rights and Resources, she wrote, quote, yes, all municipalities must do a self-evaluation and transition plan. During the self-evaluation, they must do a survey of all their sidewalks, public parking spaces, railroad crossings, crosswalks, curb cuts, bus stops, etc., and identify areas that are not accessible. Then in the transition plan, the town should plan how and when they're going to fix the problems, close quote. I realize you're not going to make a comment on what was just read from me, but I want to have some dialogue about this. Yes, you may contact me. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Ms. Cherry. Thank you, Mr. Barefoot. All right. We will move to adopt the minutes from the December 7th, 2020 meeting.
I move we adopt the minutes from the meeting of December 7th, 2020.
Have a second.
Second that.
Any discussion? Everybody's name's right?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, Amber, you know, we have to just make sure we don't have anybody's wrong. All right. Now we will move to the introduction of our public safety director.
Mayor, members of the board, I think each of you have individually met with our new Public Safety Director, Zachary Lischetti. He was not available at our meeting last month, and of course I've asked him, he's been working now a couple of weeks, seems a lot longer than that. But he is here tonight, and he'll speak to you and hopefully to the public and talk a little bit about himself and how he's getting started in as Public Safety Director.
Okay. We will welcome you.
Well, hello, good evening.
Good evening.
So if you will go ahead and move this up
There we go. Can everyone hear me?
before my phone blows up with
There we
text
go.
messages.
Well, my name is Zach Lischetti. I'd like to say hello to the mayor, members of the board, everyone out there in the community. This is my second full week now at the town of Landis, and couldn't be more excited to be here. Definitely honored to be a part of this town and this new position as we move forward towards public safety. I see a lot of good things on the horizon. To kind of give you a little bit of background about me, I come with over 10 years of law enforcement experience, 6 years of military experience, and EMS and rescue experience of over 12 years. Formidable background in education as well. Do a lot of teaching on the side, and look forward to continuing the legacy of Landis and building those relationships with the community. I'd like to see us get out there and interact with the public and have the officers out there going into businesses and the fire department and police department working together and really streamlining those efficiencies and those fiscal responsibilities for the town. And so as we move forward, I see it as a good way to do maybe more with less and get more bang for our buck, so to speak, and look forward to really being a part of that and moving forward with the town. And I will say that I'm moving this Thursday. So come this Thursday, I'll be 6 miles down the road instead of about 50 minutes down the road. So I could not be happier to be a part of the town and be a part of the community. So thanks for having me. I look forward to meeting everybody in the community when I have a chance. And don't be a stranger, and feel free to say hello.
Thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate
Welcome
that.
aboard.
Welcome.
Now move on to number 9.
Mayor, members of the board, as you know, we contracted with SEPI to do a study of our pavement, the quality and condition of our pavement. They have done that, and they formulated their ideas. They're here to present their data to you and seek some input.
Okay. We will welcome him.
I'll let Chris Coyer, he's our local, introduce our main speaker. And
Oh. You can come right here to the center, Mr. Coyer.
Anthony Roper is my supervisor and a former NCDOT division engineer and secretary of transportation. And he's been with SEPI, I think, 3 or 4 years now. And even though he's from down east, he made the 5.5 hour drive today to be with the town of Landis and help me with this report.
We appreciate that.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much.
Thanks, Chris. And Chris promoted me, so he'll be good at getting himself promoted. He promoted me to secretary. I did serve a tour as deputy secretary several years ago for the Department of Transportation. So certainly I'm delighted to be here tonight, and thank you to the town of Landis for the opportunity to serve you. And Chris and I have a presentation. One of the things we like to do before we finalize these reports is to kind of tell you where we are and get some input if you so desire before we move forward. Chris? One of the things I do like to do, again, we do have some information about who we are. I'm Anthony Roper. You all know Chris very well. Chris, lots of experience with the Department of Transportation and with municipalities such as Landis and Pavement Maintenance, and then two other gentlemen that actually did the field data collection, Jimmy Luss and Barney Johnson, and we're supported by our pavement design engineer and our GIS specialist as well. Chris? Just a little bit about CEPI Engineering. CEPI is a woman-owned North Carolina business founded in this May will be 20 years old. Historically underutilized business. I have headquartered office in Raleigh, but we're a firm that has office also in Charlotte, Wilmington, and we expanded to the southeast into South Carolina and Florida. So we are, again, a pretty good-sized firm, roughly 300 employees from one employee back in 2001. I have about 125 field technicians. About 80% of our business is repeat clients, so we do pride ourselves in great quality customer service, and I hope you'll be pleased with what we've done for you, Chris. So just so we certainly want to be respectful of everyone's time tonight, what I'd like to do is quick what we were asked, our approach to doing projects. We do believe in collaboration, so once we agreed to, we sent a scope and fee proposal that you all accepted, but even with that, we still spent some time talking with Ron and Leonard about kind of making sure we understood what you were asking us to do. And from there, we moved to getting our discrete data prepared, and then we collected discrete data. Now we're in the analysis phase and recommendations and writing a final report, and that's kind of what we want to talk about tonight, Chris. So we kicked this project off in July, and obviously in the midst of the pandemic and COVID, again, very appreciative of the opportunity. And normally we would have flown a little quicker with these things, but the ability to get out and have meetings and do different things were impacted. So, and we've had other projects to work with as well. So we met with the town manager, finance office, and public works director back in July. We collected data in the month of August. We collected the data based on a federal highways process called a long-term pavement performance methodology for the stresses, and we'll talk a little bit about, and in the report it goes in great detail about what the stresses we look for, but it's a national system for such that as you go from community to community, there's a national standard for distress measurements. And so our assessment of this included about 20 miles of paved streets, which represents about 72 streets, which translates into about 110 street segments. Chris? This is probably one of the most important slides that I want to spend some time talking about tonight. And so one of the things you want to do is look at is what is the overall health of our network. And so as I like to talk about pavement condition indexes, you want to say, does it feel like what these numbers reflect? And so I want to spend some time talking about these numbers. And so using the methodology that we use, there is 5 rating categories from excellent down to failed. Excellent being just like in school. An A would be 90 to 100, good 89 to 70, depending on the student. Fair would be 69 to 45, and so forth. And so excellent means there's no distresses. It's a perfect road. In many senses, there's very little distress. It's in excellent condition. Good means that it's in pretty good shape, but you're starting to see maybe some minor defects. Fair, which is where you'll see the majority of Landis' streets are, means that you're starting to see some wear and some aging, but you're not starting to see structural failure. Does everyone understand when I say structural failure what I mean by that? The structural failure is where you start to see significant potholes. You start to see waddles out, rutting places. You can really see and feel what those distresses look like. And so fair is you kind of right at you're starting to see that. Poor would be that the structure's now starting to fail. You've got significant potholes. You've got rutting. And then failed would be simply you need to basically dig the road up and start over. And so looking at the data, I think the good news for the town of Landis is that about 87%, if you look at the good and fair, about 87% of your network is in the fair or good category. And 10% is in excellent, and only two sections, or roughly 1%, is in the poor category. And so I'll get to the distresses about what this represents, but I think typically I think the last time a survey was done here in Landis was 2014? 2008. So it's about 12 years, and so if you look at that, what that 55% in the fair category reflects is an aging infrastructure where there hadn't been consistent maintenance. That doesn't mean that the efforts of your public works team was poor. It just means most municipalities, you may not have been able to apply funds and maintenance approaches to it to resurface and retreat roads on a frequency that you may would have liked. And so that's not uncommon. Chris and I are working on 4 of these right now, and I've probably made the same statement at every one of them at different varying size municipalities, the same kind of statement. So again, I'm spending a little extra time on this because I really want, because this is the essence of where you are, is that a good chunk of half of your network is fair, and another 40+% of it is in good or excellent shape. Chris? And so just to give a visual of that, we do have a map that showed those pavement condition indices graphically displayed, and again, the fair being that, I guess it's yellow, but it looks kind of lime green. The majority of the map, about half of the map, is in that lime green color. Chris? So just quickly, I won't spend a lot of time on this unless there's questions, but I do like to kind of highlight what the distresses are and how that relates back to the pavement condition index. So block cracking, you see the little blocks that's kind of uniformly spaced, the types of cracks you see in the picture here on North Beaver Street. About 69% of the network had medium block cracking. Chris? About 67% have moderate to high severity fatigue cracking. Fatigue cracking, you may have heard that or be familiar with that as alligator cracking. If you look at that, you kind of look like an alligator skin. And again, it's kind of the cracks start coming together like a web, an alligator web. Chris? And then the last would be surface defects. I think the upper top of that picture is showing a paved the plant mix surface that in pretty good shape. Asphalt by nature is kind of like paint. Over time, if you do nothing to it, it just gradually breaks down because it ages. Asphalt is a liquid, and asphalt is a liquid product that breaks down and becomes brittle. Picture here is a picture of oxidized, what we call oxidized asphalt, and again, about half of your network show that. Now, collect age distresses. You notice there was no major depressions, no major rutting, and we may have a road or two that has that, but for the majority of it, and I guess this is kind of what. Is that typically what you see when you ride around town? And Chris did some follow-up checking to validate the data, so we feel pretty confident that they do. But I think we like to show those because they reflect that the data is accurate, A, and then 2, that it kind of validates that these are age-related distresses, not structural type distresses, which is a positive thing because, as you can imagine, it's more cost effective to fix age versus structural. Chris? So what do we do? And so based on those distresses and those PCIs, SEPI has developed what we call a treatment menu or maintenance and repair strategy. And this is just kind of the template, and Chris can talk more specific projects. But if you notice that fair category, minor rehab would be what would be the major retreatment plan based on the types of distresses and the pavement conditions that you have here in the town of Landis. And so from an 1.5-inch overlay at $16 a square yard to a full depth patch at $50 a square yard to various things. But the big key here is for the fair category is the minor rehab is the repair treatment that would be the predominant. And so looking at that, again, the report will show other options, but just again want to graphically show if you look at where minor rehab treatments will be applied, again, if you look at a good significant portion of the town will be covered in minor rehab. Chris? And so then the key question certainly that decision makers have to think about is, so what does this mean from a dollars and cents standpoint? If you take that maintenance strategy that we just kind of briefly hit upon and deployed all of those tools, then right now the maintenance backlog would be, if someone says today's your Landis is your lucky day, you hit the lottery, how much money would you need? About $3.5 million, about $3.4 million would be what it would take to make every repair that you see, that we have that the data shows. Now we're not going to say that's what you need to do, right. But if you wanted to have some idea about what would it take, what's the value of our system, and what would it take to bring it up in real dollars today, that's what that number would be. Chris? And why is that important? And this is just a graphic I always like to show when I talk about this is, again, pavements are just like anything else you maintain, like your home that you paint and other things. And you know, when you get it and it's brand new, everything is good, as you see at the top of the scale. And over time, if you don't do anything, there's a natural deterioration that takes place. And what SEPI likes to do is propose treatment recommendations that how do we extend the life. So, you know, you don't want to go every 10 years and have to replace all the wood trim on your house. So one way you prevent from doing that is you use water sealer, you paint, you do other things during the life of that time to extend that life. And so this is what this graph displays, is that if you come in, say, at about the 7-year mark, and you do a treatment like a crack seal, or Chris is going to talk about some AST seals or some other treatments, then you can push that service life of that pavement back out and before you have to do something again. Now, ultimately, over some period of time, all pavement deteriorates and you have to resurface and do something at some point. But this is just, I like to show this graphic just so visually you can see why it's important to consider different treatment applications. Just for edification, if you do an 1.5-inch overlay, which is what happens if you wait and do nothing, there's some cost figures we have that says it's about $187,000 a mile, versus if you do some of the other seals like an ASC split seal using DOT as their contract, it's about $30,000 a mile. So it's about 5 times more expensive if you wait or if you use only one treatment type. Chris? So this time, I'm going to stop talking and let Chris come and talk about kind of what we're actually proposing that you do in your actual plan. Chris?
Reflect seal work.
Okay, Anthony touched on it a little bit, but SEPI Engineering, we believe in rehabilitation and preventive maintenance. One thing he's mentioned, which to a lot of people may be an ugly word, but is AST. If you don't know what we're talking about, that's tar and gravel. Okay? being with DOT as long as we have, we've seen the value of it, and you saw the value, $30,000 a mile if you partner with NCDOT, and I've got some connections up there in Salisbury that I can help you with that. I've already talked to them. If you partner with them, you can get some of that on some of your low-speed, low-traffic roads. If you're unsure of what it looks like, whether you're watching us online or you're here, Shepherd Plant Road was just done, Janmar, Sunday Heritage, I think, in Beverly, just out 153 on either side of the road. Those have been down, I think, a little more than a year. The difference between the old tar and gravel is we went to smaller stone on top, and then they come back and add another spray of asphalt to kind of polish it off and make it look. And if you've been to vacation and you come back and we've done that road, you're going to think it's an asphalt plant mix road. But it's basically a fifth or a sixth of the cost of a brand new plant mix road. What does it do? Need to spend just a second here. It's going to buy you 5 to 7 years, maybe more. If you plant mix a road, we're looking to get in a town 12 to 15 years. So 30,000, 180,000, 7 years versus 12 to 15. So you see why we recommend it. But again, we're not going to recommend it. We're not going to. DOT is not going to put it on Ryder. DOT ain't going to put it on Chapel anymore, especially not through town. We're going to target low volume, low speed roads, dead ends, cul-de-sacs, places like that where it will do what it's intended to do. It's going to buy you some time, and then when you come back, you can mill it off and pave it with plant mix once you build up your funds. So that's part of our rehabilitation strategy for our roads, would be including both some patching and then overlay with plant mix and overlay with AST. The AST is only going to ride as good as what's underneath it, so we want to get good patching underneath it. Excuse me. Based on what we set up for the next few years, if we utilize AST and some of these strategies, we will hit over 5.5 miles in Landis in 3 years of the roughly 21 miles of roads in here, or 28% of the network. Going back to the one slide where Anthony said your backlog was 3.4 million. If you take AST out of the equation, that 3 becomes a 5, like that. So it's gonna cost you $2 more million. And if we go in and we are not going to be here today and gone tomorrow. Y'all know where I live. I will be here to help you. So if you don't like the results of AST, in our report, we're going to add a section about microsurfacing. It's another treatment that can be utilized. And if we can get together 5 miles of it, we've already talked to a contractor to come in here and do it for you. If you don't like the AST from the start, we can talk to you about microsurfacing. It's a little bit more per square yard, I think, maybe $1 more per square yard. Going to give you about the same result, but it is an alternative. It may ride a little bit better than AST, but what we dialed in with DOT is a good product, or we would not be recommended. Again, we are planning, one of the keys is to look at your plans. Do pavement evaluations more often than 12 years. We're not trying to sell you a bill of goods, but it is good to go about, with a town the size of Landis, about every 4 to 5 years, see where you are and see if what we're doing and what we're recommending is working, because it will show up in the numbers. Okay, Anthony? Now, I don't know why I didn't make Anthony do this since he lives 5 hours away, but I get to tell everybody what we recommended. So, anyway, these are the streets that we would recommend for 2021 and what to do to them. And you have a list of them to consider, and you see the treatment recommendation on a lot of them, patching AST, patching AST, patching AST, down to when we get over to Beaver, Highland, and Zion, the last 3, it would be mill and overlay on 2 of them, and then patching and overlay on that one section of Zion where you lose the curb and gutter and it gets narrow. Being from here, I'd really like to see Landis be able to widen that and curb and gutter that all the way to 5th Street, but yeah, I know, we need to hit the lottery here. So, but Beaver Street, I felt like when I was setting this up, there's the section, I think it's between, well, y'all can see, Mills and Ryder there. It's the pinkish asphalt color. It's starting to really start showing some age and some wear and tear. And I just believe that if we could mill that out and put that back, we're going to have Beaver Street under control for a while. Highland, I looked at that. We have one of our staff members that came up here from Columbia, was the state pavement engineer for the state of South Carolina. That's how important this work is to us. We bring him on here. We've had him look at roads in Pembroke. We've had him look at roads in Elizabethtown, Wake Forest, Landis, everywhere we've gone to make sure what we think we're doing is right. And I had him personally on Highland, and basically the only thing we could do on it is so far gone. We're just lucky as a community that it's not potholed all the way out. If we have a bad winter, that's going to happen. If we have a lot of freeze thaw, it's going to happen. But in this section from Main to 5th, we recommend the only way we can fix that is to mill it out and then overlay it. Now, in the future, since I know it's not that high of a traffic generator, we could do some AST work with it on top of that and hold it together maybe as it gets 7 or 8, 9 years old. We could go with AST top on. But I felt like on Beaver and I felt like on Zion Street, we want to stick with asphalt. Higher speed, people fly down Zion pretty good. A lot of traffic down that road. And same with Beaver, a lot of traffic, and we want to stick with the asphalt where it seems like there's more traffic. That was part of what went into my decisions. So, any questions? Yeah.
Before you move from this slide,
Right.
which one of these was designated the poor? There were two sections.
I think Rice and Corral were.
0.29?
Rice and Corral, I think, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I think they were the worst two. And knowing the climate in town a little bit, being local and all, I felt like we really need to hit those. Plus, I think y'all just did part of Rice, Blakely, Ron's.
Yes.
Okay. So that was another reason, even though it just happened accidentally. Ron's got asphalt on part of this that they just did.
Chris, it had running at the end of it.
Okay. Well, where they didn't pave, we can go in and patch and put AST on it. Then you can compare asphalt to AST on performance and see how it does over time. I think you're going to be surprised, pleasantly surprised. So, but that's another reason that won't be on there. But those were your two worst streets. A lot of these were in the top 15 or 20
Of the fair category then?
Yeah, but they moved up to the fair category. I think after those two, I think everything jumped up in the 50s, if I remember correctly, and it'll be in your report.
Okay.
But so we had a lot in the 50s. They weren't really, but it doesn't take much to get them back to drop down to where they would be poor. So we want to take care of them, bring them up. We want to take these roads that are bad and bring them up in the excellent category, and try to keep them there by doing this and working with. Mr. Barefoot and Ms. Seaford and Ron, they told me I had $420,000 to spend. We put 403 on there just to have some cushion. If we have extra money, we can carry it to the next year, or we can go as we can pick out some roads to either crack seal, do some patching on, kind of hold those on. We can always do that. And again, I've spoken with Ron, I've spoken with DOT, the maintenance engineer. They're willing to come in and help with this. And when they'll come and help, it's going to be cheaper than contract. DOT doesn't have a profit margin. So they can come in and help and charge directly to your power bill. So, and the other thing is the AST contract. I've talked to a lot of contractors since I left DOT and came in. They're looking for a pure asphalt pavement of a contract of about $250,000 to really get you good, what I would say DOT prices, because DOT will contract out $2 or $3 million. Well, we don't have that normally because you got a $100,000 power bill and $100,000 from your transportation tax, I believe. So we're close, but if we do it all asphalt, but we're not there. So I recommend, again, working with the district office, working with there's a vacancy now. The guy who took my spot up there left, but working with Josh Miller up there, folks like that in that office, working with John Ryan up in Winston-Salem, They'll partner with you. They can add these maps to their plan. And the same contractor do it. It'll be inspected. You'll have a certified inspector